the things that we strive to be better at is because we're actually already kind of good at it. And then when we can take those strengths and then magnify them, then that's how we can become even more successful.
Welcome to Women Changing Leadership. I am your host, Stacy Mayer, and I teach you how to get promoted, get paid, and bring your whole self to the leadership table. I am on a mission to change organizations from the C-suite out because women are the new face of leadership, and we are doing it on our terms.
Hello, corporate badasses. Hello, welcome to my December Doing It series. I am actually in year 5. This is what I call season 5, episode 19 of having done this series. And I actually created it, 5 years ago, as a way and an opportunity to celebrate women who are changing the leadership table from the inside out through their leadership, through the ways that they're managing their career, and just by showing up as overall corporate badasses. And I think this is an amazing opportunity and time of year where we can just really embrace what is going right in the world and what is going well for women in particular, but also leaders who are, being the change, for lack of a better term, that we want to see in this world. So welcome to two very important, near and dear women to my heart. I'm so glad to have you today, Amanda and Karen. Welcome. All right, I'm going to have each of you introduce yourselves to start off. Amanda, why don't you go first?
Okay. Well, thank you very much for having me here. I do think this is a very important conversation, but also just very fun and really fits into the holiday season. So thank you. So my experience sits between engineering, product management, operations. So I'm the person who can connect the dots, which means, I tend to show up in roles like program management, chief of staff, product management, project management. Those are the kinds of things I tend to do depending on the day and the need.
Yes, I love it. I love it, Amanda. That's excellent. And Karen, what about you?
Yes. Hi, I'm Karen Riddle. Thank you, Stacy, for having me here today. Very, very flattered and honored. So I am also in program management. I've been in the automotive industry for my entire career, over 20 years, the majority of that in program management. Really excited to get to know a little bit more about Amanda and have this discussion with both of you today.
And you're in Michigan, right, Karen?
I am here.
I don't mean to stereotype, but I actually went to U of M, and that was the first that I learned personally about the automotive industry. When you finally move to the Midwest, it seems to be part of the conversation. So,
Yeah, a big part. Yes, absolutely.
yeah. Well, Karen, actually, let's kick off things with you. I'd love to hear from you what you feel like some of your secrets to success have been over your career.
My secrets to success. So, I kind of had a heads up that this was going to be one of the questions, right? But as I was, reflecting on, what has helped me be successful in my career. I was, thinking, well, of course, my natural strengths really, but I also found that in reflecting, I really embraced weaknesses of mine or ones that I had considered would be maybe barriers to my success. And I really embraced trying to become better at those things and become actually what I consider now my secondary strengths. And I think that those are really my core values, right? That's adaptability, communication, and humility. And I continue to focus on those things because they're very important to me and because they're not natural. I can give you an example. When I think about, communication, for example. One of my core values, I'll never forget, I was in an interview one time, and of course I was asked the question, what is one of your weaknesses? And so I said, well, communication is one of my weaknesses. And before I even got to continue on with my explanation, the interviewer stopped me and said, no, you're a really good communicator. You can't use that as one of your weaknesses.
Wrong.
I did want to explain, though, right, that to me, I don't feel I'm a good natural communicator, right? But over the years, I have really curated my own style of, how to, whether it's verbally or written, or even just, like hand signals, your nonverbal communication. It's very, very important. And I put a lot of thought and work into it, right? That's part of why it's become a core value of mine. But also I think that's become one of my secrets to success is recognizing I wasn't always great at it, and I'll need to always continue to work at those things.
I love that so much. I always believe in the motto that if you want it, then it's because it already is you. I mean, that wasn't the most beautiful quote, but I can further explain, which is that you wanted to be better at communication, but there's also this core part of you that's inherently good at communicating, right? So it's like the things that we strive to be better at is because we're actually already kind of good at it. And then when we can take those strengths and then magnify them, then that's how we can become even more successful. So I really admire you for looking at something that wasn't always easy and that you had to work at. But then now, actually, I kind of like this idea of secondary strengths, you know, this idea that our weaknesses can become our secondary strengths is really incredible. I wasn't, I've always been comfortable communicating. I've been on stage since I was literally 10 years old, up in front of large groups of people. But one thing that I was not comfortable with was communicating about myself. And so when I started my business, it was horrible. I was like, I can't talk. I can't sell myself. I can sell other people like you guys, but how do I talk about what I'm good at? Advocating for myself, which is now what I teach you all to do. So I can definitely relate and appreciate that, Karen. Thank you so much. All right, Amanda, I'll ask you the same question. What are some of your secrets to success?
So when I think about success, I'm going to play off the communication aspect a little bit that Karen brought up. I think about what does that mean? And what does it mean to different people? So I could maybe define success for myself, but I can think of examples in the workplace where success had a very different meaning depending on who you were talking to. So one of the things I talk about a lot is stakeholders. I love to talk about stakeholders and stakeholder management and stakeholder communication. And defining what success means for them is crucial, because when you're working with a leader who's somewhere in the organization, maybe in a different part of the organization than you, maybe upstream from you, and you need good communication, part of that is understanding what success means to them. And I would even say, as far as customers, what I've seen that's fascinating is sometimes the internal company conflict results in lost business because what the customer wanted was actually a little different. And the one I'm thinking of is when there was a real push to completely fully develop our product and it had to be perfect. And the competition delivered MVPs iteratively with the customer and won all of the business. So that was millions of dollars lost, right? And then I've also seen the opposite where, sometimes that internal push for perfection, there was communication that overruled, we're trying to work with the people doing this job and help them still feel good about something that they don't view as perfect by putting it in customer language. The customer got what they needed when they needed it. So when I think about success, I really think about what does that mean?
So, quite literally ask.
It's the most important question you'll ever ask anyone. What does success mean to you?
Wow, that is so important. They talk about, my kids are sort of entering the 10, 11, 12-year-old age right now. And if I don't ask them what they mean by that, I can open a can of worms and be having a conversation that I'm not quite ready to have with them yet. And so there is this whole idea of just asking and then further understanding and then checking back in and making sure. And I think you're an absolute genius at that, Amanda, in terms of not only being willing to ask this question and sit with them, but then to be willing to hear and push back and challenge. And so that's
It's not
so good.
comfortable.
No.
Most of the time, it's not comfortable.
Yeah. Oh, and, and the funny thing is that, I try and remind everyone is that we can be a sounding board for executive leaders. So no matter what position that you're at, if you're having a one-on-one conversation with an executive and you're asking them what success is, it's actually possible that they haven't defined it or articulated that out loud. And if you can be the person, not to put them on the spot in these like top questions, but just in a general question like that, where they do have some idea, but they haven't articulated it out loud, it can be huge. You can be the person who brought that out of them, right?
Yeah.
So that's so good. All right, Amanda, we're going to stick with you for a little bit longer. Let's talk about your leadership style, some of the ways that you approach leadership and how you think about how you lead at organization.
I think over time and the hard way, I've learned to lean into the discomfort.
Not yet. I can tell that.
For everyone to do that, if you are comfortable, there's something you're missing. So lean into the discomfort, figure out where it is. The example I think of, where, maybe I didn't even do it right, but I can look back and go, wow, that's what I should have done, is when I got shoulded. So as a program manager, frequently everyone knows what your job is. They know exactly what you're supposed to be doing. So you will get shoulded sometimes. You should have done this, or you should be doing this. And I, it's very hard on the ego when you're getting shoulded all over. I think that's the key, is recognizing when your ego is firing off, is where you're going to get defensive, you're going to get red in the face, you're going to get hot, or however your body reacts, and start realizing that when someone is saying that to you, you have a choice. You can take that and say, oh, I have to go do this. And now you become a constraint in the system because you're doing everything for everyone. And now, everything's got to come through you, and you're impacting flow and productivity. Or you can start determining how you can help them do this for themselves. And I think that's really the job of, senior program managers, right? Like someone who's got a lot of experience. You start learning how to enable the team to do this for themselves when they have a lot of reasons why they can't do it for themselves. But how do you help them? And I mean, that's really a signal. It's just this really bright red flag that there's an opportunity here for me to really empower the team. So it's not empowerment. And then how do you build up their confidence as well, that they can do this and they can fit it into the capacity that they have. And it's such a wonderful learning opportunity for them, and just more and more independent, right?
Yes, this is genius, because it's basically like you're not taking what they're saying at face value. So you should have done this is really saying it didn't work. Like something went wrong, right? Whether it's we should have taken ownership all along the way, like whatever that might have been. And when you can put your ego aside and say, okay, what they're pointing to is an actual problem. So I'm going to take accountability for that. And I'm going to say, hey, no, this did not work out. But I'm not going to own it, right? I'm not going to continue to become the bottleneck and continue to become the problem over here in my little box, fixing everything for them. Oh my gosh, that's brilliant. I love it.
Really screaming for help.
Yeah, they're screaming for help. Totally. You're so good at the interpretation and reading between the lines, and then sort of figuring out what you need to say in return. Like you wouldn't just be like, no, I should have, you should have. Can you imagine?
But I even think you see this a little with executives too, and maybe it's articulated differently, but you can get the same sense from them that there's something that they need and they don't know what it is.
Yeah. So we're going to read their minds, but that can be fun, right? That can be a good challenge that I think you would be up for, Amanda. It's awesome. Karen, what about you? When you think about your leadership and how you lead and who what you stand for as a leader. You already mentioned some of your values, so I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, well, I really do don't try to lead through my three core values of adaptability, communication, and humility. So when I'm faced with a problem, I adapt my approach. It depends on things like the situation, or the players, or the level of urgency, right? And in my experience, many or most problems, communication is a key factor in why there was a problem to begin with. So I try to use different ways of communicating and messaging as well. Amanda, you reminded me of a story when you were talking about communication and mentioned stakeholders. That a big lesson that I learned in my career was just because I was in a situation where I was trying to grow my program management group into a part of the business that didn't have program management. What I didn't realize is my stakeholders were not on board. So I was met with quite a bit of resistance, right? So, and it took me a little bit to figure that out. I didn't realize right away why I wasn't making progress, right? So I had to take a couple of steps back and figure out how I was going to address this, which now became a problem. And it was about communicating, right? It was about level setting of here's what the plan is, right? Do you buy into this, right? How can we change it so that it works for you and for the rest of the team? And after that, I was able to make some more progress. But in almost every problem or situation, it comes down to how things are being communicated, and to whom, and what is the message that they're receiving. Not necessarily what I'm giving, but what is the message that they're receiving.
Yeah. Oh, this is so good. One of the promotion strategies that I talk about is this idea of like, you're too nice, right? And so, women get told this all the time. And oh, and you talk about one of your core values is humility, right? Which has this dark side to it of niceness. And you're a very kind person, both of you, and everything. But what they're really saying is, we don't think that you can fire people. Or like, we don't think that you can do hard things. And you're like, of course you can. I can all day long. You see me up there. Yes, I might be nice about it along the way, and they might not hate me afterwards. Exactly. So this idea, this theme that we're sharing here of reading between the lines and really understanding, and then the willingness of going back to our stakeholders and asking further clarifying questions, not being in our own box and saying, I have the idea, I can execute on this, I can figure it out, but really including others along the way is kind of what I'm hearing in terms of both of your leadership qualities. And I think this is also when we talk about women changing leadership, and, that it's this opportunity to lead together, right? And what it means to lead with others instead of at other people is a huge difference. And I see that in both of you. So I'm very appreciative for that. And so I want to take a moment to encourage you, if you're listening and you find this valuable, which I don't see how you could not, that you join us again at the same time next week for the next part of our series. And you can also follow me on YouTube at stacymayer.com/YouTube or at Corporate Badass. But either way, you can find me. And you'll see all of the previous December Doing It series over the years as well. And that's really fun to reflect and look back at and see these leaders and how powerful communicators they are and articulate in terms of what their vision is in their leadership. So thank you both so much for being here with me today. And I want to close out our conversation with one of my personal favorite reflections and questions that inspire me, as we go into this month of December. Why do you personally feel motivated to have a seat at the table or a voice at the table? Why does it matter? Why does your voice matter? I'll let either one of you go first, whoever feels inspired.
Well, I can go first. So I mean, I like to feel like the work that I do every day matters, right? That it makes a difference if I am there or if I'm not there. And in the past, when I've had a leader where there's a good mutual trust between us, I am almost fiercely loyal, right? And I can make a really positive change with my team, with the organization. And to me, being at the table means trust and respect. I don't mean that being at the table means you automatically are trusted and respected, but that you get to be at the table because you are trusted and respected. And that's what I want. What I want from my peers, from my organization. I want to be seen as somebody that is trusted and respected for who they are, how they lead, and the ideas that I bring to the table.
Wow, that's great. So, you mentioned just briefly because I'm curious about that. This idea of being fiercely loyal to a leader, this can totally backfire. So, can you share with us a little bit about that? I'm assuming that this idea of trust was built. Another piece to this answer question that I'm always very curious about is what do we mean by trust? I think for a lot of people, trust is like, will I do my job? Will I execute well? Right? Like, will I get the job done? Do I stay up late on weekends like they tell me to? But what I'm sensing is that there's a little bit more to trust in your definition of it, and maybe part of that collaboration piece and loyalty. Can you share more about what that is?
Well, sure. So some of the best leaders that I've had, we worked so well together that it was almost that we were peers, right? And that they could rely on me to step in for them or to give them the information that they needed before they even asked, to point out the problems before they heard about them from someplace else. So they relied on me for that. But likewise, right? Like I trusted that they were going to make sure that I was in the meetings that I needed to be in order to have the right, information, or that they were going to help, maybe make introductions to certain people that could benefit me or my career or my position, right? That it worked both ways, right? That while there was a reporting structure, it didn't feel like ever, I was being told what to do. You just already know, how to make your boss successful, and then your success, in my mind, should just follow along.
Right on. I love that. It's so good. Thank you for that clarification. And I think I really see it. And one thing I also want to point out is that she's sharing a process that she did. And I'll work with you guys on this idea of showing up as a peer, right? And when we can show up knowing that our role is to collaborate with our boss, not to just wait and be told what to do by our boss, then that's when you lift yourself up, like you said, and then you're able to have that seat at the table because they trust you and your opinions that you've already been sharing, and the way that you're being in conversation. So they want you to have that seat, right? And yeah, so good. That's awesome. All right, Amanda, what about you? Why do you feel motivated to have a seat at the table?
For me, it's about impact. I know I can have the most impact when I'm at the table, as opposed to waiting to hear what happened at the
Yeah,
table.
right? Yeah.
That I can really have the most impact, and it's a communication thing. You can really help with communication across the board. That's a value I bring that sometimes other leaders that's not their strength. So that's really a beneficial. But I think my favorite word right now is empower. And I view being at the table as I've had an ally or an advocate empower me. And as part of being empowered, then I'm also able to give back and empower others. And so I do really enjoy, and I am fortunate enough to have people who are interested in coaching and mentoring from me. I learn as much from them probably as they learn from me. It's wonderful. It's the best exchange. But the intent there is to keep lifting up others who, I mean, I certainly it's women a lot, but it's not always women. Sometimes it's, young, very young engineers. Right now I think young engineers are struggling because there's a sense that AI is replacing them. And that's unfortunate. So we got to work through how valuable new people entering the industry are and what they bring.
Yeah.
They all bring something new because they're humans with brains that work differently than other people's brains. So
Exactly.
it brings something valuable.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, Amanda and Karen, you empower me. I always joke that the women inside of my leadership table mastermind are really just the women that I want to surround myself with every single day. So this is an opportunity for me to uplift you and also for you to uplift me. So I really appreciate that. And thank you for making my work matter as well. So I'm excited about my interviews coming up over the next couple of weeks. Please join us. If you're not already following me, definitely hit the follow button. You can also follow Amanda and Karen here on LinkedIn. And we look forward to continuing to hear about both of your career journeys. And I look forward to seeing what 2026 has in store for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you so much for listening to Women Changing Leadership with Stacy Mayer. If you enjoyed this episode, you are absolutely going to love and benefit from the work that we're doing inside of the Women's Leadership Accelerator. This month-to-month membership program is unlike anything else in the market. We are single-handedly flipping the unemployment rates on their head. It is the only place on the internet where you can actually get yourself not only a job offer, but one that has a higher salary, a higher title, and more recognition and influence than you ever could have imagined in your career. Inside the Women's Leadership Accelerator, we are getting women promoted. We are getting them multiple higher level job offers. And I want that to happen for you. Join us in this one-of-a-kind program. You're going to get coaching directly from me, my executive mentors who are also hiring managers who are doing the work, who have worked with me personally for the past 3 to 5 years. We are here inside of this accelerator program to work with you personally to begin to elevate your leadership to that next level. This is exactly what you have been looking for, and I am here to deliver it to you. Best thing, it's month to month. So you can come in, join us, get access to all of my training materials, my weekly live interactive calls, and you can begin to bring your friends into this community. It is the most corporate badass community on the market. I can't wait to see you in there. Go to authenticallypowerfulwomen.com. We are changing the face of the leadership table one promotion at a time. I can't wait to see you there.